Hope is here. The way to break free with your host, Angela Pedigo, will light a flame within you. Host Angela Pedigo is an author, speaker, and certified life recovery, grief, and joy restoration coach. Angela uses her own life experiences to help you navigate and guide you to success. She also has developed tools that incorporate her faith and her drive to overcome any obstacle in life. So please welcome the host of The Way to Break Free, Angela Pedigo.
Welcome, everybody, to The Way to Break Free. I'm your host, Angie Pedigo, and you are in for a treat today, let me tell you, because I have my dear friend here, Tammy Lumb. She has got, oh my goodness, a relationship with Jesus like none other, and like you can't be around her and not feel that fire. So we're going to go on a journey today. Tammy, thank you for coming and being on the show. She started several years ago a women's recovery home that has grown so much and has turned into men's recovery home. She has such a calling on her life, and I cannot wait for her to share that today. We were talking before we came on here this morning about where are we going to start, and we decided we're just going to go on a journey. So buckle up because I don't know what's going to come out of this. But Tammy, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Angel, for having me. And a journey it has truly been.
Yes, take us down the road. Pick wherever you want to start, because Jesus does so much in your life. So.
Oh, he has. He has. My journey started through all of this is I grew up in a family that struggled with addiction. I grew up in that family and very angry, very bitter, and with a mindset that I will not live like this. I'm going to get out of this life. I'm going to fight my way out of this life. And I did, but it was Jesus, and I have to give him credit. I went through those stages in life, in my younger life, and I thought, I'll get an education. I'll be prepared to, have a nice life. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to be able to provide well for them. So I thought I kind of had life laid out, and it was going to be good. And so I got my education and somewhat, successful in my career path. And, we went through a lot of things when my children were younger, due to their father being very sick. And my thoughts were, I'm going to take my kids to church. I'm going to teach them right from wrong. They're going to be in every church service, every Bible study, every vacation Bible school. They're going to be there, and the Lord tells us, bring up your child in the way they should go. Mm-hmm. But he says, when they're older, they shall not depart. I didn't think about that middle time.
It's something about those teen to 20-year gaps, isn't it?
But I thought as a mother, we got to teach your kids. So I thought I could teach my children to hate alcohol, drugs, anything that's going to alter their mind, because that's how the enemy manipulates them. If they'll surrender to those things, then they can become a tool for the enemy. And unfortunately, I did not succeed at that. I was not successful at teaching them. But when I look back on that life, they both went through some traumatic things. Their father died in their arms while I was at work. I had to work and provide. So they went through that as teenagers. They're on the phone with 911, and they're both doing CPR on their father and my son. That was absolutely the most amazing teenager at that time. Wonderful. He's begging God not to take his father, and I'm not there. That's when our journey really began, with the drugs and it affecting my children. My daughter had dabbled around with some things before that, and I didn't really, I was ignorant to a lot of it, but drugs got a hold of my kids. They went down some really dark paths because of that. And as a mother, and it was especially with my daughter because I had grandchildren. And when it finally got to a breaking point, she had had my third grandchild. And as a mother, you know, when you see your children battling this, you know, and you know, it's a life or death. It's like you never know when the call's going to come in. You never know when someone's going to knock on your door and say, "We found your child." And I found myself tormented, literally tormented, living in a cycle of just waiting for the phone to ring or someone to knock on the door. Tell me my daughter was dead because she at this time was in the deepest part of it. And like I said, I had 3 grandchildren. And as a mother and as a grandmother, I looked back on my life growing up. And, you know, my parents, they both got hurt. So theirs started with pain pills prescriptions. And given very strong narcotics to the point that, you know, they didn't come back from that. So I'm living in this life, and with my daughter, I reached a breaking point because all I could see was my grandchildren was going to be living the repeat of what I remember growing up in. Little children get hurt. Little children go through things that they should never have to go through. Not necessarily that the parents hurt them, because my parents were not the ones that hurt me. But when you're under the influence, there are lots of people that come around. Lots of people. And they're not usually people that have your best interest at heart.
Not for your children.
And so I was just living. I was living, and I couldn't get out of that cycle of, my God, that's going to happen to my grandbabies. And a mother, the pain is so horrific that you just want relief. It's like, Lord, take me out. I don't want to live this. I don't want to live in this pain anymore. It's every day, never ending. And I reached a point that I went in my war room because I love Jesus. And I thought, I'm going home. I won't have to deal with this anymore. I reached a point and I go in my prayer closet, and I didn't time it, but my husband was there and said it was about 2.5 hours. And I'm battling with the Lord. I mean, it's a battle. And I'm explaining to him. And I thought my daughter was okay with the Lord. I thought she had made peace with the Lord. I thought she was ready to go. So it was all good. Come to find out later, she wasn't saved. So I'm like, thank you for unanswered prayers. But I'm in there, and I'm explaining to the Lord how he needs to take my daughter's life. He needs to just go ahead and get it over with, because it's just not going to end, is what I saw. And I'm explaining to the Lord that, you know, I want to go home, Father. But if I leave, he's going to protect my grandbabies. He's going to take care of my grandbabies, because my daughter's obviously not going to get it right. And I thought once they got that consumed in addiction, there really was no way out. Because I looked back on my life and I thought, you know, if a parent's love cannot be strong enough for that child, that they will fight to do whatever they have to do to get out of that life. You know, the evidence I had from my past told me there was no hope. They're not coming out of it. Yes, from my life. And so I'm explaining to God how, you know, it's just going to get worse. She's not going to get better. And my grandbabies are going to suffer. And, you know, somebody needs to protect them. So I'm arguing with the Lord. I mean, I have never in my life reached a state like that where I'm just explaining to Jesus, you know, you need to come and take her.
Do you feel like it was God, take her, or take me, like you're at your desperation point of, I can't live this anymore? But it made more sense
for her because
you didn't see
all I saw is if I left, no one would protect my grandbabies.
Yes.
That's what I saw. And it's like, somebody's got to protect them. Somebody's got to teach them about Jesus. Somebody's got to make sure that they've made their preparations before their time comes to an end in this life. And, you know, so it was And I'm down there and I'm praying and I'm praying. And I know my fists are hitting the floor and hitting the wall. And my poor husband, bless his heart, he come to check on me a few times because I know it was disturbing. He didn't know what was going on. And I would just put my hand up and say, this is between me and Jesus. And through all of that, somewhere in that place, the Lord let me know he wasn't done with my daughter. And boy, was he not done with my daughter. He let me know he wasn't done with her. And it wasn't my place to decide when he needed to take somebody out. And if I had a problem with what was going on, because everywhere you look, you see people that are struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
You see their lives being destroyed. He let me know if I had a problem with that I needed to get up and do something about it. And I'm down there and I'm like, well, I don't even like them. I don't like anyone with addiction, and I'm going through all of this. And I'm like, there's no hope for them. And he's explained to me, you need to get up and do something about it. And I'm
so here he's telling you to take action on something that you hold resentment and bitterness toward.
Yes.
What did that feel like?
Oh, that was like, it made no sense to me at all. I'm ashamed about my faults that I used to have. But my thoughts were, if they get hooked on the drugs or the alcohol, the only right place for them is 6 feet under, because they're going to hurt somebody else because of that. That's all I could see. They're going to hurt the children. People are going to die. My thoughts. So I lived a life saying the only place for them was 6 feet under. I'm sorry, Jesus. And he corrected me. And he let me know he wanted them. He wanted them. He wanted them. He wanted people to reach out. And there was hope. And he is the mighty physician. And if you'll get up and you'll start working to help them instead of being someone that you think you can judge them, which we don't have that right, he starts performing the miracles.
Yes.
He starts healing them. He starts changing their lives.
You know why he wants them so bad? Like, I see this all the time. And I tell those in the jail or, people that we work with, that the reason he's after you is because when he delivers you from much, you're going to love him much.
Oh, much.
And his word says that.
Yes.
The ones that have come out of the pits love him so much more.
They do.
More obedient, more willing, not really scared of anything at that point, because they've done danced with the devil. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
And that's exactly what I see today. And going through this, I'm down there, and I'll wrap this part up. As I'm praying and I'm still arguing, and I'm like, I can't do that. Tell Jesus you can't do something.
It never works out.
And you still want to be obedient and show the Lord you love him. But and I'm going through all these feelings, and then I'm like, okay, I will. You're right. I don't have the right to tell you it's time to take someone home. You're right, Lord. I'm sorry. And so I'm going through this repentive moment. And then I'm like, okay, I will. And then as I'm down there praying, it just slaps me just so hard. Open a house for 20 women. And I'm like, how in the world am I going to do that? And then I'm like, okay. And this was him speaking to my heart. This was the communication that I know, that experience I had with the Lord that day. The Holy Spirit, it was real. And I was going to be obedient. So I said, okay, I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off, but that's what you told me to do. One way or another, you'll provide a way.
So let's set the stage for this for just a moment. It wasn't like it was just a good idea or, okay, I'll do this. Because at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have any knowledge at this point of what does a recovery home look like? Like, where do you start? What do you do?
The only knowledge that I had is I had put my daughter, and my son had had some experiences, but they had gone through 30-day programs, multiple 30-day programs, multiple, some 2-week programs. They'd done the outpatient stuff. They had, because I thought we're going to be different and I'm going to get them help. So we had tried all those things. Nothing was successful. And so I'm like, God, and then I'm starting to look into it and I'm starting to do research. And I'm like, I've got to open a home for 20 women. Where does the success come from? And that's when I'm like, Lord, you got to teach me. And then I started doing the 12 steps, studying up on the 12 steps and getting certified in different areas with that. And it's like, okay, I've got to learn this. I've got to learn this. It takes a year. And this is what I learned. This brain has been severely damaged through drugs. And for them to get a good, solid footing, that 12 months, to get through that 12 months with sobriety is vital.
Yes.
And if they can get through that 12 months, their odds of success are so much better.
Oh, yeah, because when those things start waking up at the 3-month mark, the 6-month mark, they're feeling feelings they ain't felt in a while that used to run them to go get for that drug of choice. And if they don't have any safe place to weather those storms, somebody pouring into them in those moments, it to them feels like I'm never going to get out of this. It's a point of desperation. Right. It sets the stage for relapse.
It does.
And, like that brain, that healing time that's needed for that brain, that full year, you have just as much luck trying to get somebody who's battling maybe with something else like dementia or something like that to understand what you're trying to tell them would be best for them as it is while that brain's trying to heal.
It is. And they're going to go through in this year's time, they're going to go through pain. They're going to go through kidney infections. They're going to go through, needing teeth pulled. They're going to go through many things. Trauma, loss of family members, heartache. And at those moments when they're at their weakest place, there's got to be someone there to say, come on, we're going to get you through this. Because left alone, they're going to go back and find what gave them a moment's comfort. Knowing good and well, it's going to take them back to a very dark time. But they're so desperate because, just like my daughter said, she said, Mom, I didn't know how to deal with pain. She said, because I went through lots of stuff. She said, but I was under the influence for so many years. I didn't know what pain actually felt like.
That's a good point. We're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna come back and pick up right there.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back from the break. Tammy, right before the break, we were talking about how they're having to deal with pain and these things and physical ailments, but sometimes learning to grieve things for the first time. You know, you were mentioning that your daughter didn't know how to deal with pain.
Right.
Do you think that part of her addiction may have spun off of having to deal with grief at a young age, like with her dad and stuff?
Her heavy addiction come during that time. She was already, being rebellious.
Teenage years.
She was going through those stages, and actually some of hers started from a medication for attention deficit disorder when she was young. I didn't like the way it changed her. Explained it to the doctor after about a year, took her off of it. So she'd already had, her brain was already prepped, shall I say, for chemical dependencies.
Yes.
And so as she got older, she started experimenting more. She found that she enjoyed the stimulants more because that's what, as a young child, her medication, sensation it made her have. But as she moved along in life, there were so many drugs involved that she said, she knew she went through a lot of pain, but she never really experienced the pain unless she was coming down off the drugs.
Yes.
And she said that's the worst pain in the world is what she said, coming down. But to learn to cope with a back pain, a sprained ankle, a kidney infection, a toothache, a migraine, to learn to cope with those things and not turn to something strong to give her relief. That was something she said, she wasn't prepared for. And then it just kind of played out. I noticed it with all of the ladies.
Yeah.
Pain that I'm like, that'll be okay. It really affects them differently. They feel it more intensely because, they've been numb to it for so long. And grief, the same thing. They could go through things, go get high and not really feel the pain and let their bodies, their minds, their souls process the grief. But then when they start really feeling the grief, you got to be there to hold their hand because their brain's telling them, go back to what gives you comfort.
Go back to the familiar.
Yes. And so that's something that, I've had to learn. I've had to learn. It's like I've had to learn to live life totally different than I ever did before because it wasn't just about me surviving out of that life, making a way out. It then became about, you got to help these people that are suffering.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they don't always look at me as the good guy because sometimes it is like having
tough love.
20 kids in this house and 20 kids over here. But it really is love.
Yes.
I can't explain it. I cannot explain how that one day in my closet, he took a heart that was full of hate. And I'm ashamed to admit that, but was full of hate. And I thought I was justified to hate those kind of people is how I looked at it. And he turned it into a mother's love. So every person that I'm trying to help, even when I'm really mad at them over something they should not have done, what if that was your daughter? Yeah. What if that was your son?
Yeah.
Because they've made a lot of bad choices in their life because of drugs. And so it always, I think Jesus uses that to keep me reeled in, Tammy. And so with each one, it always goes back to that. What if that was your daughter? What if that was your son?
Yeah.
But it also lets me see just how much Jesus loves us.
Yes.
You know, we've got to have something we can relate it to truly connect. And then it's like, well, you love us like that. And I'm so sorry that I didn't used to love like that. I thought I was a good Christian. I've learned a lot about myself over these last few years.
If you really want to understand the concept of the depths of the love of Jesus, go climb down in a trench.
Yeah.
And walk with them as they climb out. Yeah. And like roll your sleeves up, get your hands dirty, climb out with them as they're climbing out. That's what he done.
Yeah.
That's what he does. And you can't explain that kind of love. You just have to feel it and experience it. And even when you do, you don't even know how to really put words to it. You know,
you don't know how to put words to it. You don't. And this journey of trying to lead people to Christ, and that's exactly what we do. You've got all forms of help in this world, but the great physician is the one that does the complete healing.
So let's go back to here. You've been charged with this assignment from God. You've got to open up this house.
Yeah.
Was that tough?
To say the least. I'm sitting around and I'm like, okay, God, I'll do it. I don't know how, but I'll do it, because the moment that I had with the Lord that day was as real, clear, defining, as the day I got saved, the day I met Jesus. I mean, it was, and I'm like, if you told me to do this, then you're going to lead me on how to do this. And my life was always a total different path. And I thought that would be my career forever in business management and for my.
It kind of is, but in a different business. But
I never thought it would be like this, but the journey, I tried to get out of it many times. I thought, okay, well, Lord, you've put this on me. And I told not a soul except my husband knew. Well, let me go back. And my sister, I had kind of told her Jesus gave me something I had to do. But then is it okay if I share?
Oh, you share.
Where I got my confirmation.
Your share.
There was this lady at church that came up to me. Of course, her name was Angie Pettigo. And I hadn't shared, but you came up to me and you said you really need to talk to me. That the Lord had showed you there was something I needed to do, and that you had to help me with it. And boy, did you ever.
I knew you were supposed to do what you were supposed to do, because it was so funny. About 3 weeks before that, Adam would get up and leave. My husband, he would get up and leave and go to work in the mornings, 3:30 or so. And of course, I was in a different career at that point, so my day started earlier. So I would have to get up and pray. And in that career, I would always, like, it was in the banking industry. We had all these regulations, and it was like, oh my goodness. What if we forget to cross a T, dot an I, miss a date, something like that? Like, we're all going to prison. We're all going to, or we're going to have to pay these fines. I lived in this fear. Yeah. And one morning he just said, it was like, when Jesus had that moment where he was like, Martha, Martha.
Yeah.
You worry about the littlest things. It was like he was sitting there saying to me, Angie,
I know.
Child, you worrying about something. You got it backwards.
Exactly.
You're not going to jail. You have to go tell her that, and that's the morning he said, I saw as plain as ever you sitting, and I did not know what the NPR room looked like in the jail. But when the very first time I ever walked in that room, I knew then that was the room that morning that I saw. And there was a table, and you were sitting on this side of the table, and there was two girls sitting here. And I'm like, kind of standing off here, like watching, and you are pumping that tough love in them, and you're doing this, and that hair's just swinging. And I was like, and he said, go tell her she's supposed to help those women in the jail, and you got to help her get that going, but go tell her. Well, right. I didn't know you that well.
I know
at that point, but he used your daughter to tug at my heartstrings.
She was incarcerated.
Yes. And he put such a burden on my heart for her. And it was like, I don't know, it was just weird. And so I had told my husband, I said, God's telling me I got to go tell her this. How am I supposed, what am I supposed to do? Just drive over there and knock on the door like, hello, you're supposed to do this. And I don't know what that looks like, but my part is done. I've told you. And he was like, I don't know. But if he's telling you to do it, you're going to have to tell her. And, I wrestled with him that morning. You come down the middle of that aisle at church, and my heart was about to jump out of my chest. Go tell her now. Go tell her now. Go tell her now. I was like, God, can't this wait? Can't this wait? Nope, go tell her right now.
Yeah. Well,
so if there's ever anybody that was trying to validate whether you was called to do what you're supposed to do, I know it, because he let me know that morning that you were supposed to do what you were doing.
And it was challenging because, like I said, I knew what the Lord had told me specifically to do. And so I tried to kind of work my way around it, say, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to do it my way. It never worked.
How long from the time that happened in your closet to the time you were actually able to open up, how long did it take you to get to that process?
A little over 2 years. And I was working in the jail between. And I had started going up to the jail and ministering to the ladies, doing 12 steps, Christian 12 steps, talking to them. But the way I thought I was going to just kind of work my way. Okay, Jesus, I'm doing it, but I'm going to do it this way. Okay. I tried to start getting ladies into other homes. They needed help. So I'm working with them, and we're trying to find them a good place to go to so that they can get help, because I knew they needed help.
Yeah.
And I'd go up there, and I never dreamed I was going to love something so much as to go up to that jail and sit in there with those women and just start pouring out love, explaining to them, Jesus, God is not, some of y'all have gone through a lot of pain that was inflicted through men. Don't put Jesus's face there. That's not where
that's good.
And I'm like, I promise you, if it hurt you, it hurt Jesus.
Oh, that's good. We're going to take a quick break. We're coming right back with that.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. Tammy, you were just about to hit on something so powerful and important.
Mhm.
You were experiencing, you were teaching them they've been hurt.
Yeah.
And not to put Jesus's face on the person who hurt them.
Right.
What beautiful wisdom to start breaking a divide between their pain and their blame.
Right.
What'd that do? What did that do to them?
Well, when I really started working with the ladies, I started learning so much about how they actually found themselves in that particular spot. Many of them experienced childhood trauma, abuse, sexual abuse. And they're, as little bitty girls, I heard so many times, it's a choice. And I used to be one of those people, it's a choice that they're an addict. They choose to do that. A lot of little girls, young girls that I was, dealing with in the jail and in other places found out, they were put to sleep, some of them at little bitty girls, so that people could hurt them, touch them, do things to them. And then it would progress as they got older. They grew up very bitter, very hurt, very traumatized. And all they saw, they're like, I had one lady in particular, she said to me, well, God's a man. And because I kept referring to him as my father, our father, he wants to be your father. You don't know him. And she said, all my father ever did. And she brought that up. And then she just poured it out. But I knew her. I knew her when I was younger, and I knew she was telling the truth. I knew it wasn't something she was making up. I knew her. And so they connect their father or a male that maybe has hurt them to the face of the father. And I'm like, it doesn't belong there. Well, why did he let that happen to me? And I'm like, we have free will. But I just looked at this one particular lady and I said, but I can promise you this. He hurt when you got hurt. He hurt. He doesn't love his children being abused. He hurt. And I said, but he's provided a way for you to have eternal life, eternal peace, and healing. He will heal you. And that's where it really all started. And that lady was older than me. But she found the Lord there in that jail. She found the Lord. It took a couple of more times of going in and talking about the love of our Father. She got down and I told her that she wanted the Lord. She no longer saw him as the abusing father. She saw him as a loving God. She desired that. She got down and she found the Lord through her prayers. And it was the sweetest look I'd ever seen, because she's down there praying and we all started praying with her. I don't have any power to save you. I'm like, honey, but he can hear you. surrendered to the Lord.
Yes.
And she looked up at me, and it was the sweetest face I'd ever seen. She goes, heard me.
Oh.
He heard me.
Oh.
And I said, he heard you? She goes, she said, this is my Father that I feel. This is, she said, I just got saved.
Oh.
And I'm like, whoa. Well, maybe it's after that moment, I'm like, okay, Lord, this is,
You knew you was where you're
I
supposed
was
to be
where I
doing
was
what you're supposed to
be.
do.
And like I said, I tried to find an easy way to do it so I didn't have the financial burden. I didn't have to find a house. I didn't have to do. And I'm like, I'm going to get them in all these other places. And Lord, you're going to be so pleased with what I'm doing because they're all getting help. No, that didn't work either. So
He's like, that's not what I said.
that's not what I said do.
So now you get to walk through all the highs and lows throughout that year.
Yeah.
With them.
I do. And
what's that like?
Oh, I've had to learn a lot through the way too, because I don't know, when through my upbringing in life, I thought I had it down pat. You do this, you dress like this, you talk like this, and you love Jesus this way and this. Well, I've learned a lot through that. that you can't make somebody find the Lord by doing X, Y, and Z. You got to lead them in a way. You got to show them Jesus through you.
Yeah.
Jesus
Sometimes
through
your
you.
life's the only Bible somebody's ever going to read.
You got to show them Jesus through you. And I just thought, well, we're going to do the 12 steps. We're going to do this. We're going to do trauma counseling. They're going to go to church. They're going to hear the word, which is all very, very good stuff, very important. But then, and they're going to find the Lord, and I'm seeing people get saved left and right. I mean, that one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Nobody told them they were saved except the Lord, the Holy Spirit, that connection. And then I thought, oh, well, it's all good now. Everything's good now. No, you still got to help them on that journey.
Yes.
You still got to help them through it. It's kind of like I had to learn. It's like your children. You're not the best mama you can be for 2 months and then walk away and say, I did a good job. You got to keep.
It's like raising children, raising your kids, not trying to say they're childlike, but when we are made new in Christ, we are a new creature. We're a new creature. We're a newly made creation. And in that aspect, we are a babe again. Mm-hmm. We're a child again. So now we got to learn, how do I walk in this Christian life? How do I walk? How do I be like Jesus? Right. And that is like starting over from, child up. And so, yeah, you're right. It's a journey.
You show them that through love, though. I've had my finger in a lot of faces saying, you knew better than that, or, and once again, me thinking because of, how I've always thought I was doing it right. Yes. Jesus had let me know that's not how you're supposed to be doing that.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay.
Especially in the South where we're at,
right.
There's a lot of what we've, been taught or shown our lives, whether it's from, parents or beliefs or whatever, of condemnation. Mm-hmm. But it's not our job to condemn. It's our job to show love like Jesus did.
That's right.
And leave the convicting up to Jesus. There's a difference in conviction and condemnation. Right. Conviction is a gentle, like, hey, prompting, a nudging, a drawing, that conviction. It's not condemning.
Right. And I found myself doing that a lot. And then because my expectations were they've done this, now they've got it. It didn't work like that. There's still a journey. But when the Lord, I guess I used to think God was an angry God. I sinned again. He's so mad at me. I sinned again. Oh, Father, I'm sorry. And then through several different things. I knew he loved me, but I was always in trouble because I was such a bad kid. It's the way, I saw it in my mind. I did this, I said that, I did, and then I'm like, God, yeah, you correct me. But he loves me.
Mm-hmm.
He loves me. And when I look at my children, my grandbabies, and how I love them, I'm like, God, my love can't even compare to your love. And
your love is so full, you can't hardly contain it
exactly.
already. So yeah.
And it's like, Father, it's so bad.
Yeah.
And just like you don't want to do that. That's not good. But not the judging, shouting, you're wrong, you shouldn't do those things. So through this recovery process, I can honestly say, I think I've probably received the most recovery. I've received the most recovery because I just don't look at anything to say, my Father loves me, and I've got to help them understand he loves them. He's going to correct them.
Yes.
There's a price to pay for our mistakes.
Yes, there is.
But don't go down in shame in such a way that you run from the Father, because he's waiting there.
He's going to love you the quickest.
He said, come on, let's get back on track. Don't stay there. You just can't stay there. Come on, let's get back. And when they learn that relationship with the Father, then we've done our job.
Amen.
Because they've learned that's who I need to turn to.
Yes.
That's where my help comes from.
Yes.
That's when I don't know what to do. Just a little time with Jesus, and he'll show me what to do.
He will.
And that comes from love.
Yes.
Not from stomping your feet and being a drill sergeant. And I've tried it all. That stuff didn't work. Love.
Yes, it is all about love. He is a God of love. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back from the break. So, Tammy, we started this journey today with your daughter.
Yes.
And I have loved watching her from the point that I met you, you guys were in my life, to today.
Yeah.
Tell me about what God's done for her.
Okay. Well, she has over 5 years of sobriety.
That's a victory for God right there.
It is. She was one of the first in the first year residents to complete the program. And before, we got to her recovery side, she kind of got tired of my Jesus talk. Now, I love the Lord. I've made many mistakes, but I've always been talking about Jesus ever since I found the Lord when I was 17 years old. I'm telling everybody about Jesus. So that's what I've always done. And I've had my family accuse me of saying, Mama, you can God somebody to death, right? And so today, that girl gives me a run for my money. She's out there. What the Lord has done for my daughter, for my beautiful daughter, that I had given up all hope.
Yes.
And today, the mother that she is, now her kids, she thinks education's important, but they know a whole lot more about the Bible than they do science. So she loves people so intensely, but you're just not going to be able to sit down with my daughter and not talk about Jesus. And the Holy Spirit, God the Father, you're not going to be able to sit down with her today and it not be on the great physician that healed her. And she'll tell people, she's like, I've heard once an addict, always an addict. She said, but once Jesus delivered me from that, she goes, no, he healed me and I'm not going back. And she loves the Lord.
Yes.
And she wants people to be saved. She's always willing to get down and pray with someone. And where she works today, always willing. Let's go pray. Come on, let's go pray. Let's go pray. And I just sit back and say, Father, thank you for unanswered prayers. Thank you, Father, for the times you tell us no. And Lord, thank you for what you have done for my beautiful daughter that loves you so much, Lord. She glows.
She
wherever
does glow.
she's at, she wants to talk about the Lord. And she was always kind of an introvert. And I've never, I've been talking to everybody. It didn't matter who it was. Today, she don't care who you are. She don't talk to you about Jesus. I mean, it's just like I've watched her blossom into this God-loving, God-fearing. Let me tell you about what Jesus done for me. And she wants to tell everybody because people think when they're in that life, they're stuck. No, they're not stuck. She's like, let me show you how to get out of that life. Let me show you how to get out of that life. And it's just it's been a beautiful journey.
I've been waiting to say this since you said it in the beginning. But when you were talking about how you felt when they were kids, that if you showed them everything and you took them and you trained them and you taught them, that they would be fine, that they would know, and that you said, I failed miserably. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You did exactly what you should have done. God had to take them down some roads to bring them out so that she can keep going further and doing exactly what he's started in you, what he rooted in you. But you trained those kids in the way they should go. And now they're older and she's not parting from it. She just had to go a journey that she's back on, and God did that. He brought her through that. Jesus has delivered her. I mean, she's got a calling on her own life.
Yeah.
And well done, Mom. Good job, Mom.
Thank you. We make a pretty good team.
Y'all do.
We make a pretty good team because I go in with the mother's love and she goes in with I know what that life's like. Let me tell you, not only she'll tell them, look, you probably can't out tell me on stories. Yep. She's like, I can tell you what Jesus can do. Yep. So we go in and when it's a team effort, Lord have mercy, when it's a team effort, praying with someone or helping them.
Yes. Jesus sent them out in twos. He sent them out in twos. And every time, I think about that, you're sitting there describing that, I'm like, Moses and Aaron, Elijah and Elisha, and then he sent the disciples out in the 70 in twos. And you two are a great team.
We get both sides.
Yes.
I'm still that mama's side, and she's still that, but Mama, let me tell you something, side. Mama, let me tell you, you don't know what this is like. Or Mama, let me, and she does. We ground each other very well. So it's God's good.
He is so good. He's so
faithful. And He does hear our prayers. He answers our prayers the way He knows is best for us.
Oh, yeah. And they're going to usually impact many people, not just us. And that's exactly what He did for you. That's what He's doing for her. Like the magnitude of the answered prayer don't just root right there, but it's rooting out. So we got about 2 minutes left. And what would you leave listeners with today?
This fight it's a good fight. And those children is the thing that always tugs at my heart. They're worth it. They're worth that fight. But mamas and daddies, don't give up on your children.
Right.
I gave up. I said no. There is help. There is help. And I've seen it grow so tremendously, the people eager to help, because I don't think there's really anyone out there that hasn't been affected in one way or the other by seeing a loved one go down this path.
Yes.
We're going to get a lot better results when we unite together for the cause.
Yes.
And we don't need to limit Jesus. He's still the miracle working Father today. We don't need to limit Jesus.
Amen. That is so true. And the more united we can become, the more, the less ground the enemy gets.
That's right.
The less ground he gets. I want to encourage you today, if you're out there listening and maybe you are ready for help yourself. If you're parents that are trying to battle this, I know Tammy would love to hear from you. She would not mind at all. Look up Romans 8:28 Ministries in Middle Tennessee and just check it out. Great place to come, great place to go to. And there's one thing they will do. They will introduce you to that love of Jesus. So I thank you guys for watching today. I thank you for tuning in. Spread the word. Share this to anybody that you think might benefit from it today that needs to not lose hope in this moment, or maybe on the fence about seeking help. So tune in with us next week. Thank you for watching The Way to Break Free on Bold Brave TV. We'll see you next time.
This has been The Way to Break Free with your host, Angela Pedigo. The one thing Angela attributes her personal victories to is her relationship with God and her deep faith. Tune in each week and hear stories and testimonies of people in personal and professional trenches and how they overcome them with their own faith in God. The Way to Break Free has something for everyone, everywhere. Right here, Wednesdays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.